Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be. Uh, this is today I'm gonna speak about password spray attacks. Again, this is for educational purposes. I do it because I want to be able to keep up to date with today's trending attacks, and I like to share what I learned. So let's go with that. So password spray attack. Now, if you can see, there are some links that I have there for you where they talk about the Microsoft password spray attack. You know how they got um, compromised, and they explain how they went about fixing it and all that. And also the MITRE attack framework, which is the brute force password spraying attack, also, which you can also find it on their website. Now, protecting all accounts. Privilege escalation means that attackers can achieve their goals without necessarily needing a highly privileged admin account as an entry point. So, for those of you that think that, yeah, only the high privilege accounts will be compromised or attacked, you're wrong. Anybody's a target, or everybody's a target, no matter who you are. Protecting an inactive low privilege account is just as crucial as safeguarding a high privilege admin account for several reasons. First, attackers often target these overlooked accounts as potential entry points into a network. Meaning, let's say I've been around in many companies, and one of the things that they always tend to neglect is, those invites or accounts, guest accounts, or they create accounts, just to do tests, and they just set it and forget it. And I've gone there and I have mentioned many times, these accounts, you need to disable them or remove them, or you know do something about it, but you can't just leave them open. But again, you can only advise people on what exactly they need to do and how to go about it. But you know if they have a different job role, it's up to them to really uh, do and proceed and make those changes. So once compromised, attackers can use these accounts to move laterally within the network, escalating their privileges and accessing sensitive information. That is, something that you need to realize, that IT is not cybersecurity. So most IT admins, they try to do the cybersecurity side on their end, but they don't really know exactly what they're doing. You know, a network or a Windows administrator is there to provide access to, groups, accounts, OUs, and you name it, computers, whatever. And a cybersecurity analyst or cybersecurity administrator, let's say, or architect, or engineer or analyst, is there to say no. If you need access to something, you have to study or have uh, the paperwork saying, why do you need access to this? Because if that happens, if there's a compromise, then you're screwed. You know, there's a lot of things that has to be that they must be done in order to get back into production. So once compromised, attackers can use that, like I said, to move laterally. So, and then moving on, second, inactive accounts. That's another one I was going to say. Inactive accounts are often neglected in terms of security measures, making them attractive targets for hackers. Organizations may overlook implementing strong password policies multi-factor authentication for these accounts, leaving them vulnerable to exploitation. From an attacker's perspective, even low privileged accounts can provide valuable access to certain systems or data within the organizations. So, yeah, leaving any inactive accounts, like guest accounts, or like I said, test accounts, which I have seen. And, sometimes, they say, oh, we spend so much money on security and why they would get hacked. Well, all I can say is one word: misconfiguration, my friends. So that's one thing to take into account. Now, looking at the definition uh, within the MITRE attack framework, password spray attack. So, what is it? A password spray attack is a type of brute force attack where an adversary attempts a single password or a small list of commonly used passwords against multiple user accounts. So think about this. This guy is going to have one single password and then it's going to test it in multiple accounts. So let's say a company has 500 users, and if he knows, the nomenclature of the company, he will use those 500 uh, usernames against one password. And if that fails, he will continue to use it against another password, and so on and so forth until they find a weak password, a vulnerability within those usernames. So, unlike traditional brute force attacks that target a single account with many different passwords, password spraying spreads the attack across many accounts to avoid triggering account lockouts. The attacker aims to find valid credentials by systematically trying the same password against various accounts, like I was saying. This approach reduces the risk of account lockouts that would typically occur when repeatedly guessing passwords for a single account. Identify password spray attacks with MITRE attack. In the MITRE attack framework, password spraying falls under the brute force technique category, specifically technique ID T1110 point 003. Subtechnique, brute force password spraying. Tactic, credentials, access. So here are the steps to identify and address, password spray attacks using MITRE attack. So A would be detection. So you monitor authentication logs for patterns of repeated login attempts with the same password across multiple accounts. It's important. You need to look at the logs. And some cybersecurity analysts, they do have the tools, and they think, by just looking at, let's say, an example, we have Defender 365, and we're not getting alerts or incidents or whatever, but they forget to go and look at the logs. You know, maybe within those logs that you have in Azure Entra or Azure AD, if you look at the logs, I mean, you compare, right? Whatever you're seeing in Defender, you go look at the logs in Azure and see what's going on here. I see, there's the same username every time, or there's, or the other way around, there's the multiple accounts that are failing to log in because there's a password that's being used for that account. And you start investigating. You can look at the IP address. I mean, is it normal? Is it from, let's say, from here, from the city where you live, or is it from, I don't know, somewhere across the planet that this user, if you investigate that user, you see that the IP address is foreign, you know, and then that keeps repeating itself. And no matter how many times you try to block it, I mean, there's always going to be more and more different passwords. different IP addresses. You know, we have the something a topic that I'm going to talk about, the DGAs, domain generation algorithms. This is something that the command and controls, the attackers nowadays, the ATPs or advanced APTs, advanced persistent threats. They can change domain, just like that. If you block one, they can make another one right away. And there's so many that there's no way that you can keep up in blocking them. So, anyways, keep going. Look for failed login events associated with commonly targeted services. Example: SSH, Telnet, FTP, SMB. I mean, if you're using Telnet, FTP, and SMB, my friend, there's a problem. LDAP, RDP, HTTP. HTTP is another one you don't want to use. HTTPS, etc. So, commonly targeted services. So, password spraying often, and all this information you can find it within the MITRE framework site. You don't have to just base it on what I'm saying. Just go look it up. So, commonly targeted services. Password spraying often targets management services over commonly used ports. These include services like SSH. Again, we're repeating ourselves. This is port 22 TCP, Telnet 23, port 23 TCP, FTP port 21 TCP, SMB, which is something that you should really need to take a look if you're using SMB. I mean, you could probably use it, but not the version one. So SMB, it's TCP 139 and 445. You have LDAP, port TCP 389. Port RDP is port 3389. HTTPS port 80, and HTTPS is 443. Microsoft's SQL or SQL 1433 for TCP. TCP port 1433. Oracle TCP 1521. MySQL 3306 TCP. VNC 5900 TCP. Okay. Additional, Additionally, attackers may target externally facing emailed applications like Office 365. You know, well, now going into that, mitigating strategies. Also, this it's not me that it's saying this, but you can look it up in the MITRE attack framework page. Implement account lockout policies after a certain number of failed login attempts to prevent brute force attacks. Consider using CAPTCHA if lockout is not feasible. Force users to change their password on first login, especially if they have default passwords. Enable multi factor authentication wherever possible. Number three, real world examples. So, various threat actors, including advanced persistent threats, groups like APT 28, APT 29, APT 33 have used password spraying techniques to gain unauthorized access to systems. Now, if I go and look at that, look at the site, brute force. Here we go. I don't know if you can see it. Yeah, brute force spray attack. See, you have, like I was saying, the ports, right? Telnet and and it tells you the APT, the cyber threats. You have APT 28, APT 29, and here it tells you the description, who they are, what they do. You know, this is where you have the tactics, techniques, and procedures, right? Chimera, okay, and it tells you the mitigations, right? Detection, what should you be looking for? See, application logs, user accounts, right? All that. So remember, proactive monitoring, strong authentication practices, and timely response are essential to defend against password spray attacks. So here's a bit more information about password spray attacks. Okay, and you can always you always think that yeah, we spoke about this. You can always say yeah, we told them about it. Yeah, we did this. But if you don't emphasize the cybersecurity points, uh, what is relevant for the company, how to defend the company, if you don't have the user awareness training for the employees, listen, it doesn't matter how much money you spent on tools. You know, you can have the best tools that could ever exist, but if you don't have the weakest links trained properly, you're gonna fail, and then you're gonna realize, why did we spend so much money? You know, it's all about knowing where your gaps are, what vulnerabilities you have. I mean, if you're gonna do a pen test, don't do it in house. Hire a third party company, because this is not. It wouldn't work if your cybersecurity analysts do it. It has to be outside of the company. You know, that way they are not biased. So remember, you need to think about exactly what do you have, the assets, what is your baseline, all this stuff that you need to know. You need to develop an IRP, incident response plan, you know, in order for you to be able to mitigate any attacks that you're going to receive. Because you got to think in a way that it's not a matter of if you're going to be attacked, is when you realize that, then you have to be prepared. You have to have your analyst ready, not your IT. Like I said, don't confuse your IT with your cybersecurity department. They're different. IT is one thing, and cybersecurity is another. So think about that. So, attack methodology. In a password spray attack, the malicious actor attempts the same password across multiple user accounts before moving on to another password, unlike traditional brute force. So we have established that. The goal is to find valid credentials by systematically trying a single password. Okay, we went through that already. So the effectiveness. Password spraying attacks are often successful because many users rely on simple and predictable passwords, such as password 123 or admin, whatever, or just password or something else, something really dumb. And if I wanted to get this point across, let's say if I learned, the name of the user, maybe I don't know, the full nomenclature of the account, but if I know the user and where he works, I can do a lot of social engineering. I can do open what's it called, OSINT, you know so open source intelligence, I'm sorry. And then investigate about certain user or users, and see what I can find. So, and I would not be breaking any law, because all I'm doing is social engineering, open source intelligence, whatever's out there. So, if I find out that the user likes horses, cats, or dogs, or whatever, you know, that will help me make my passwords a bit easier. I could try so many about pets. Okay. Oops, sorry about that. So, like I said, and go. I'm sorry about that. Let me just. So, mitigation strategies to defend against password spray attacks. Consider the following measures. So, these you can find them on the site for MITRE attack framework. So you can prevent brute force. You can implement lockout policies for both the username and password to prevent credentials from being guessed. Captchas, you know, that is if you think you don't want to have lockout, then you can use captchas, you know, to thwart the automated attacks. You can force password changes to the users because when this happens, it's better to change your password, right? MFA. So, and also external services. Enable MFA for external facing services, Office 365, to protect against remote attacks, which will happen. Trust me, you will have that. Okay, so now be proactive with Microsoft Sentinel or Defender 365 custom query language. Proactive threat hunting is crucial aspect of cybersecurity on both Microsoft Sentinel, Microsoft Defender 365. They offer powerful capabilities for this purpose. We're going to explore KQL to hunt for threats. Now, this brings me to a point. I am making a video or video series on how you can start using um, Sentinel, or well, not just Sentinel, but I'd say how to create your queries, custom query languages. How to start from a small query and to build up from that. So Microsoft Sentinel hunts, right? Hunts and Microsoft Sentinel provide an end-to-end threat hunting experience. So how can you use that proactively? Define your hypothesis. Okay. Start by creating a hypothesis. This can be any idea you want to validate, such as investigating potentially suspicious behavior visible in your environment, right? So if you notice something that it's not, how can I, kosher, right? So you have to investigate it. Looking for types of malicious activity based on newly discovered threat actors, techniques, or vulnerabilities. You know, that's another thing. I mean, you will always see threat actors, techniques, or vulnerabilities that you have, that you haven't addressed, that you might get reports for, and then decide, okay, let's tackle that. Let's see who is trying to attack those vulnerabilities. What techniques are the threat actors using? Identify gaps in detection coverage using the MITRE attack map. That's another thing that you can do. You already know your vulnerabilities in your network. Okay, go to MITRE attack framework and see if you can map it. See what could happen, how they would decide to attack you, and then once you map it, you can go back to your network and your tools and start creating a way to um, block those type of attacks, right? So you can also, with KQL, you can use pre-selected queries. So you can initiate your hunt with pre-selected queries or add queries as you progress, which is something that I'm going to show you. These queries are built in KQL and can help you investigate in your hypothesis. And it's true, if you go look at the queries, there are already some created for you so that you can start. Persistent query tabs. Conduct your hunts using multiple persistent query tabs. This allows you to keep context over time as you explore data. Collect evidence and annotate findings. That's a given. Every time you're doing threat hunting, you have to collect the evidence and annotate findings. Create a report. Find a tool that you can use to create your report. So as you hunt, collect evidence, investigate user and entity behavior analytics, which is also available in Sentinel. Annotate your findings using hunting specific bookmarks. Okay, so you need to get used to really know how to do the investigation, what to do, how to proceed, step one, step two, step three, step four. Collaborate and document. Colla- Collaborate with your team, not only with your cybersecurity teams, but with IT or anybody that you need to communicate with, to keep them up to date on what's going on, what you're doing, how are you progressing. So by adding comments and documenting your findings, act on results based on your findings, create new analytic rules, incidents, threats, indicators, or run playbooks. Running playbooks is something that you will have to do with Microsoft Sentinel. Creating playbooks for your teams also, and then you're gonna have to do tabletops with your teams just to see where you are. Will you react when an incident happens? How will you respond to that? That's why you needed playbooks, tabletops, and IRPs, incident response plans. Track your hunts. Keep track of your new, active, and close hunts in one place and view metrics based on validated hypotheses, and tangible results. Microsoft Defender KQL. If you're specifically interested in Microsoft Defender, you can use KQL for threat hunting as well. There are repositories like this one you see here, this link where you can go look, and they give you training. They give you whatever you need. It's right here. It's in GitHub. I mean, why should I even hide it? It's right here. You know, you can do threat hunting using. I mean, if you already have the tools, the means, and anybody sharing all their knowledge, why even create the wheel if it's there? you know this site provides ready-made detection and hunting queries for Microsoft Sentinel and Microsoft Defender. Okay, these queries cover various scenarios and can be customized to suit your environment, and I have done that. I have picked up KQL queries and I have customized them for my environment. So remember that KQL is a powerful query language with intelligence support, making it ideal for threat hunting. You can use it not only for hunts, but also in your analytics, rules, and other investigations within Microsoft Sentinel. In summary, leverage the capabilities of both Microsoft Sentinel and Microsoft Defender. Define hypotheses, use KQL queries, and stay proactive in identifying and mitigating threats. With that, I thank you, and I will start the Microsoft Sentinel KQL and Microsoft Defender KQL training to show you how it works. Thank you. Have a good day.